It is your destiny.
Hello everybody, today I am here to talk about a project of Star Wars that sent everyone into a literal frenzy and destroyed the lives of millions of people, ruining their childhoods and ruining every aspect of Star Wars imaginable, and I am going to be talking about The Acolyte. It has been, about a month, maybe over a month, I'm not completely sure, that The Acolyte has been off the air. Many people still argue that The Acolyte is the worst thing to ever come out of Star Wars, probably the worst thing that ever happened to Star Wars, and today I'm going to be talking about every single episode of Star Wars The Acolyte and see where it all went wrong. So, without further ado, here we go. But first, as always, we start at the beginning with episode 1 of The Acolyte, Lost/Found. Effectively, here's how it goes. This takes place 100 years before the events of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The idea here, essentially, boils down to some Jedi, somewhere, are being hunted down by an acolyte of a Sith Lord. This effectively sets off an entire chain of events that leads to Episode 8 becoming a thing, which we won't talk about until later. But for right now, someone is hunting down Jedi Masters all across the galaxy. We start off with Trinity from The Matrix, you know who she is, and she is hunted down and murdered by this acolyte. The fight starts off very well choreographically. They start fist fighting. Trinity obviously has the superior edge because she is a Jedi Master, but unfortunately when a citizen is threatened, she hesitates for a quick moment and gets stabbed in the heart with it. After the death of Trinity, we then cut to Osha. Osha is the new protagonist of this show, and she will be the centralized character in this show altogether. Osha is then pinpointed and blamed by the bartender who witnessed Trinity's murder, and Yord arrests her. Yord is a character who trained alongside Osha while she was a Jedi Knight, and who was effectively one of the Jedi who was training alongside her when she became a part of the Jedi Order. This immediately leads to Osha being arrested, her being thrown onto a Republic escort ship that is being controlled by droids. Unfortunately, however, there are individuals aboard that ship who want to get out, so they sabotage the droids, leave her in her cell, launch off in an escape pod, and the ship crash lands on some random-ass planet out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Immediately upon her crashing onto this planet, we then cut to Sol. Sol, apparently, is the Jedi Master responsible for the training of Osha, and he was her former Jedi Master. He's informed that his previous apprentice has apparently been arrested for the murder of Trinity, and he has to go find her because the ship that she was on crash landed on some random planet, and he has to interrogate prisoners to see whether or not if they are telling the truth about their whereabouts and about what they did to get aboard the escape pods to escape that ship. The problem is that he apparently has the ability to read people's minds, which is kind of screwed up because why didn't you send him to do this entire shindig in the first place? Like, the first immediate question I have is, why didn't you send Sol to do this? Sol has the ability to read people's minds. Why can't you send him to figure out whether or not Osha killed Trinity or not, since he has the ability to read people's minds anyway? Wouldn't that be the easiest solution instead of arresting her outright? You could have just read her mind, found out if she did kill Trinity. If she did, arrest her. If she didn't, then fine. Why didn't you just do that? Why did you have to waste your time putting her in a ship with a bunch of other prisoners just for her to crash land on a completely different planet? Either way, this doesn't matter because Osha starts having visions of her twin sister May. May and Osha are twins. They grew up together in a temple on the planet Brendok, where they were raised by a coven of witches, and apparently there was a massive fire, and May apparently died. That's the entire shtick of that, and there's a lot to be discussed over that, and I will get to it eventually. Either way, Sol ends up finding Osha. Osha says that she's been having visions of May, and the two of them work together to find out whether or not May is still alive, which, surprise, surprise, she is. Turns out her twin sister was the one who murdered Trinity, and now her twin sister is the apprentice of a Sith Lord who is apparently wanting an acolyte for his own reasons. I don't know why. But either way, 2 apprentices and 2 masters join up together, and that's the end of that episode. And this is now where we move on to Star Wars The Acolyte Episode 2, Revenge and Justice. In Episode 2, just like Episode 1, we immediately start with May. She infiltrates a Jedi temple and immediately goes for the next Jedi on her list, Jedi Master Corbin. She tries to use knives, she tries to use athletics, she tries to use kicks and punches, but nothing is getting through. Meanwhile, Osha is on the Republic ship and Sol is 100% committed to helping her find out if her sister is still alive or if she's going absolutely crazy. So this is going to be great. And we also find out that this guy exists. Kymer. Totally not a bad guy, by the way. Totally not the master at all. Okay, this is going to be great. Kymer and May then decide to work together. The 2 of them make a poison together by using bunta leaves and using several other chemicals of which I do not know the nature of, but they end up making a poison either way, and both promise each other that they will not tell the Master about this circumstance, even though he's right fucking there. Anyway, after this encounter, Sol and the other Jedi Knights now arrive on the planet where May is about to assassinate Jedi Master Torben. Jedi Master Torben lets his guard down, reveals that they thought that what they were doing was justifiable and right. He drinks the poison and he dies, and finally, May has her second kill. After the assassination of Jedi Master Torben, that just leaves 2 left, Kalnaka and Master Sol. They then go to see the apothecary because he was killed by poison. That's not the same guy, so they plan a sting operation, get his confession, and he says that he can lead them to May. May is then found. She has kind of a martial arts fight with Jedi Master Sol, and Master Sol easily defeats her before she creates a cloud of dust, and she tries to escape but finds out that her sister Osha is still alive before Osha tries to shoot her with a stun gun, but she intentionally misses, allowing her sister to get away. This will ultimately lead us to Episode 3, which I will be talking about at both Episode 3 and Episode 7 at the same time, because I don't want to delve too deeply and waste all your time. This ultimately leads us to Star Wars Acolyte Episode 3. And because I'm a nice guy, I will show you both Episode 3 and Episode 7, which are both flashback scenes. So we will conjoin them together, and we will effectively put them as one episode. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, Episode 3 and 7 are titled Destiny and Choice. With these 2 episodes, we will be discussing the relationship between Osha and May, their life during the time in which they were a part of the Cult Coven, and we will also be talking about Sol and the 4 individual Jedi that were on the planet Brendok during this time. All of these are connected, and all of them are fully bound together. But first, we start with the Jedi Order. A long time ago, like 2 centuries before the events of this show, there was an incident called the Great Hyperspace Disaster, in which the Legacy Run, a ship that belonged to the Republic, crashed into another ship called a Nil Storm Ship. The 2 ships collided, destroyed each other, blasted fragments of their ships all throughout the entirety of the galaxy and the Outer Rim, halting travel throughout the Outer Rim and causing fragments to travel at faster than light speed, destroying many planets in their wake and causing massive disasters. The problem here is that Brendok was one of these planets, and for some reason Brendok is now thriving. 4 Jedi are sent to Brendok to discover why exactly this planet is now thriving the way it is, despite the fact that it was hit by a metric fuck ton of faster than light material, and they are trying to see the reason why. Sol does a little bit of investigating and finds out that Osha and May are a part of a secret witch cult that are living on the planet of Brendok and that are currently hiding out in an old mining facility somewhere nearby. He goes back to tell his former Jedi Masters and Jedi Knights, but it turns out that they don't really care about a Force Witch coven that is currently residing on the planet. They only care about finding what is actually happening to this planet that is causing it to regrow with life. But Osha and May, on the other hand, are learning the ways of the Force, or otherwise known as Thread, and the 2 of them are practicing. Osha doesn't really know what she's doing, but May is very powerful when it comes to using the Force. Their mother, Anasea, is currently the leader of this witch coven, and she's trying to get them to be ready to become initiated with the cult. A lot of people in this cult are already members, but Osha and May have yet to become members as of yet, and they are preparing for a ceremony. May is first up to bat. She immediately becomes part of the coven. She gets the brand on her forehead. Everything is fine. Osha is about to become part of the coven, but then the Jedi step in and say that they need to investigate whether or not these girls have force potential and whether or not they can actually become Jedi or not, because they think that that is the best way to protect them. Or at least that's what Soul thinks is the best way to protect them, because nobody other than him, a part of this Jedi Order, seems to have any other opinion about this. Anastasia is willing to let the two girls be tested and have their blood drawn for further analysis, and they take them over to the Jedi Order. They ask them a few questions. They go back home, and May immediately lies to the Jedi, while Osha gives them the full truth, nothing but the truth, and wants to actually become a Jedi. Anastasia, on one hand, is completely willing to let her daughters go and allowing them to be whatever they want to be, more specifically Osha. Meanwhile, Krell is not willing to let that happen because she knows that the Jedi Order will try to do whatever it takes to destroy them if they find out how the twins were created, which we do not know of as of yet. Later on, the Jedi, however, find out that the twins are actually created through some alternative means. Whether it be the Force, whether it be cloning, whether it be genetic mutation, doesn't matter. Either way, the one Jedi on their team, Jedi Master Torben, or Jedi Padawan Torben at this point, sees an opportunity to go back home to Coruscant and immediately goes after the twins. This is ultimately where things get a little rough. Osha wants to leave the Witch Coven so she can join the Jedi Order. May is not really down for that, so she steals her notebook, sets it on fire outside of the door, smashes an electrical conduit, and somehow that sets the entire fucking mountain on fire. I'm not completely sure, but Osha has the ability to escape by using a tunnel that's inside of the room. Meanwhile, the Jedi infiltrate the facility after it's been locked down, and they immediately go into battle against the Witch Coven after Anastasia tries to absorb May's energy to herself. I don't exactly know how that happened or why that happened, but she did that and Soul stabbed her. So yeah, he tried to save a young girl's life from being absorbed by dark energy by stabbing the ghost figure that was trying to absorb her. Personally, I don't really blame him at that point, but that doesn't matter. Torben and Soul then have to fight Kalnaka, who's being controlled by a witch coven, who is immediately then set free a couple of minutes later after beating the absolute crap out of two Jedi by Trinity, who breaks the connection between Witch Coven and Kalnaka's mind, which causes the entirety of the Witch Coven to immediately die. Krill and her other disciples decide to fuck off, and this immediately results in the entirety of the mountain blowing up, being set on fire, everything's exploding, and Soul's only priority is to find Osha and May, but he only ends up saving one of them, and obviously it's not the one who just set everything on fire. Anyway, moving on to episode 4, which is titled Day. Okay, so turns out that after the incident that happened in the flashbacks that we just talked about, Kalnaka wanted to separate himself from society, so he decided to crash land himself on Kafar, where he basically wanted to be isolated inside of a forest so he could live out the rest of his days just being a Wookiee, not relating to really anybody or anything. Meanwhile, at the Jedi Temple, Jedi Master Soul is talking to many other Jedi Masters, including Master Ki-Adi-Mundi, who are talking about May and her ability to kill not one, but two Jedi Masters with little to no effort. This immediately sets up the information of, okay, she's going after Kalnaka, so we need to find Kalnaka and make sure that he's well protected from this scrawny chick who only managed to kill one person by distracting them and killed another person by making them drink poison. So, after all of that, they dispatch to the planet of Kofar, where they want to find Jedi Master Kalnaka and make sure that he is still alive. May is now traveling with Kymer, and she wants to find out what the situation is so she can kill Jedi Master Kalnaka. Only she doesn't want to do that because she found out that her sister is alive. So she is now going to track down the Jedi, cooperate with them, and find out a situation in which she can cooperate with the Jedi Order so she can take out the Master, who is totally not Kymer. Trust me, I swear to God. She ends up finding Kalnaka first, Turns out he's dead, and the Master is actually there, totally not Keimer, by the way. This is where we finally see the Master come into action. He shows up, lifts Osha with the Force, throws her away, and begins fighting 7 individual Jedi, which you would think that the Jedi Knights obviously have this. This is a 7-on-1 fight, but you would absolutely be wrong, because this is going to be a one-sided massacre. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where we get to episode 5, titled Night. Of course, we have the Master facing off against all of these Jedi. He's headbutting lightsabers, he's deflecting them with his Cortosis armlets, and he is managing to disrupt their lightsabers, killing every single person in his way until only 3 people are left: Jedi Master Sol, Jeki, and Yord. In this scene, we find the Master facing off against Sol. He then vanishes, goes after Jeki. Jeki manages to fight him off with 2 lightsabers, one of which belonging to Kalnaka, and then she ends up getting stabbed 3 times, twice in the chest, 1 in the heart, and then she ends up dying. Then it is revealed that the Master all along was Keimer. Wow! I didn't see that coming! So, turns out Keimer is actually the Master, the guy who was running the Apothecary alongside May, the one who gave all the information to the Jedi, and the one who's been traveling with May this entire time. Turns out he's actually the Master the entire fucking time. He then fights against Sol. He ends up snapping Yord's neck, and then he fights him some more, only for Osha to put a thing on him, cause light to be around him, and then for him to be taken away by giant goth moths. So that's awesome. May and Sol, or at least May and Osha, have this conversation. They want to run away together, but May wants Osha to go with her, but Osha doesn't care, because as far as she's concerned, May killed her entire fucking family. So May knocks out Osha, cuts her hair with a lightsaber, and then she runs off with Sol so she can finally kill him and then try to save her sister, only for the Master to then find Osha and then take her with him. That is where we end off for Night, and then we move on to episode 6. Now for episode 6, we are in Teach and Corrupt. This episode is one that is kind of slow, but is also not that important if I'm going to be completely honest. In a nutshell, this is what happens. Sol is with May. Sol's trying to explain everything that happened, and he's trying to explain to May, who he thinks is Osha, about everything that happened and everything that's been going on, and how he is appreciative of how she is sticking with him every step of the way, until he realizes, oh, you're not Osha, you're actually May, stuns her, locks her up, and then is about to tell her about the entire incident that happened all of those years ago. In one other hand, Osha is getting thirsty for Keimer, even though she literally watched this guy murder all of her friends and tried to murder her. Okay, this is basically like one of those, dark romance stories that you find, like one of the paperback novels that you find at Walmart for like $8.99. It's basically that. It's a dark romance story starring a woman who watched all of her friends get murdered by a sociopathic weirdo, and a weirdo who's literally taking a bath and he's getting, ogled on by Osha. It's very uncomfortable, but either way, he's trying to seduce her to join the dark side of the Force because she seems to be more powerful in a sense and more willing to do as he says. Meanwhile, Osha sees the Cortosis helmet, throws it on, and she immediately starts having like visions of her or her sister killing Sol. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay, we already talked about episode 7 with the flashback scene, but really quickly, I want to talk about some extra stuff that's already been happening, starting with my least favorite character in this entire fucking show, Jedi Master Venestra. Venestra is an absolutely terrible person. The fact that she didn't immediately get the Jedi Council or the High Jedi Council involved in this situation is really fucking weird. And the fact that she didn't immediately call for them to actually do something about the fact that there was a random person who is directly connected to one of the only handful of Jedi that actually left the Jedi Order, who's going around murdering Jedi Masters because of an event that happened 16 years ago, is really odd. Why didn't you involve any of the Jedi Masters that could have handled this situation appropriately? Either way, she's terrible. Along with that, everyone's now dead. Soul thinks that he now has to do everything himself. He's not listening to Venestra anymore, and now he's going to take on Keimer so he can save Osha. All right, we're good. We're set. We're fine. This leads to the last episode of The Acolyte. The episode is, in fact, titled The Acolyte, ironically. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, it's endgame time for the show. Let's wrap this all up and let's go home. Soul wants to go back to Brendok so he can admit to his crimes and so he can try to find Osha. Osha, looking in through the Force, sees that she or her sister is about to kill Soul, so she agrees to go with Keimer to go save her sister. Meanwhile, Darth Plagueis, the motherfucking wise, is watching from a corner, and it's all fucking great. They all end up on the same planet. Osha's trying to find May. Soul is trying to find Osha. May is trying to find Osha, and Keimer's just looking for someone to kill. All of everybody is fighting each other. Keimer and Soul have this badass lightsaber fight. It's all great. It's all nice. But Soul is showing a little bit of dark side tendencies as he begins fighting Keimer. But then, lightsaber of Keimer's is destroyed. He admits to May of everything that happened in the temple of which they are sitting in. And Osha force chokes Soul and begins to bleed his lightsaber crystal to make it turn red. Jedi Master Venestra immediately lands on the planet. Keimer throws on his Cortosis helmet upon sensing Venestra's presence. There's a little bit of foreshadowing there. He is the apprentice of Venestra, and that's why he has the lightsaber whips on his back. May and Osha flee the scene. They end up going to the tree, and Osha and May try to escape, but only one of them can leave because it's a two-person ship. Osha and May then decide that May's memory will be wiped by Keimer, and Osha will become his new acolyte. At that point, the two of them have swapped sides. Now, Osha is the acolyte, and May is cooperating with the Jedi Order so she can find her sister after she got her memory wiped. And that is where we end off with the show, with the sunset. Keimer and Osha are now master and apprentice, and May is now finally with the Jedi Order, and now she's going to be cooperating. Jesus fucker-nucking Christ. Now, final thoughts about the show. I had an aneurysm while I was going on a rampage about this, and I could not be any happier. The show is insane. It is ass backwards. I did not really get a lot of it upon second viewing, and it gets even crazier as you watch it. The only bright side of this show is the fact that the actor for Soul is really good at what he does, but unfortunately we will not be seeing him if there is a second season because, he's fucking dead. So hopefully we get a second season because I love the conflict that goes on about this damn show, and it's really excellent. So until then, I will see y'all later, and I hope you subscribe because this is like a 20-minute fucking session. Holy fucking shit.